Okay, let's talk about something that I know drives so many English learners crazy. You're in a conversation, right? You know exactly what you want to say, but then you open your mouth and poof, nothing. Your mind just goes completely blank. It is so frustrating. But if that's happened to you, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to break down why that happens and, more importantly, how to fix it. Let's get into it. So let's just tackle the big question head on. Why does this happen? I mean, you've studied the grammar, you've learned all this vocabulary, it's in there somewhere. But in that one critical moment, it feels like a switch just flips off in your brain. And the very first thing you need to hear, and I want you to really let this sink in, is that your English is not weak, and your mind is definitely not weak. This is such a common part of the journey, and just understanding what's really going on is the first huge step to getting past it. Seriously, that whole mind-blanking thing, it is an incredibly common experience for language learners. You are so not alone in this. It's practically a rite of passage. So let's get into the mechanics of what's actually happening. You can think of it like this. There's this little internal battle happening, a tug of war. On one side, you've got all that English knowledge that you've packed away in your brain. And on the other side, you've got the real-time pressure of an actual conversation. And when those two things clash, your brain can just freeze up. But why? Well, there are two big reasons. Let's kick things off with the first and, honestly, the most mechanical reason this happens. I call it the translation trap. A lot of us are doing this without even realizing it, and it's a huge source of slowness and stress. Now, this trap gets its start from something called L1 interference. I know, it's a technical term, but the idea is super simple. Your brain is just so used to working in your first language, your L1, that all of its habits and rules kind of get in the way when you try to use English. It's a totally normal place to start, but it's a habit we've got to break. Just look at this process on the screen. When you're translating in your head, you're not just speaking. You're running this whole 5-step program for every single sentence. You hear the English, translate it, think of a reply, translate that back into English, and then, finally, you speak. Whew, I'm tired just saying it. You can see why this is a massive problem in a real conversation, right? Because a real conversation doesn't wait. It flows, it's fast. It's not going to pause while you run through that whole mental marathon. The whole process is just way too slow, and that creates that awful feeling of being left behind, which, you guessed it, creates a ton of stress. But, believe it or not, that's only half the story. Now we've got to look at the psychological side of things. This is what I like to call the perfectionist's paradox. And the paradox is this: the more you try to be perfect, the harder it becomes to speak at all. The moment you try to speak, your brain just gets flooded with all these questions. You start second-guessing everything. And when this happens, your brain actually interprets all this self-doubt as a threat. It sends out a little alarm signal that basically screams, "Stop, you're in danger," and that's the freeze. So our job is to get you out of that danger zone and into the learning zone. Look at the difference here. It's about seeing mistakes as proof that you're trying, that you're actually learning. You know, think about how a little kid learns to talk. Do they think first and then speak? No way. They speak first and figure it out as they go. You've got to give yourself that same permission to just embrace messy, incorrect English, because that is where the real growth happens. Okay, so we've diagnosed the problems: the translation trap and the perfectionist's paradox. Now for the good stuff. How do we actually retrain our brains to get around them? Well, it's all about building some simple, consistent habits. Getting fluent in English isn't some kind of magic trick. It's a skill. It's like building a muscle. You just have to put in the reps day after day. The goal here is to make thinking and speaking in English an automatic habit, not some stressful, high-stakes calculation. And the absolute best way to start is in a totally no-pressure zone, all by yourself. Try some of these simple things. Talk to yourself in the mirror. Describe what you're doing out loud while you make your coffee in the morning. Look around your room and just start naming things. That's a window. That's a table. That's a red book. You can even have a silly conversation with your plant. It feels a little weird at first, I get it, but trust me, it works. And here's the why behind it. The whole point of these little exercises is to build a direct connection, a superhighway in your brain. You want your brain to see a chair and just think chair, not see a chair, think of the word in your language, and then translate it. We're cutting out that slow, clunky middleman. All right, next up, change what you're putting into your brain. If you're using a bilingual dictionary, you're just making that translation habit stronger. Swap it out for an English to English learner's dictionary. When you're watching movies, switch those subtitles over to English. This forces your brain to connect the English sounds you hear to the English words you see. Oh, and a big one. When you learn a new word, learn it inside a phrase. Your brain has a much easier time remembering chunks of language than it does single isolated words. Now here's a really specific, super powerful technique for you. It's called shadowing. It is a fantastic brain training workout. It's so simple. You listen to a short phrase from a podcast, a movie, whatever, and you immediately repeat it out loud. You're not thinking, you're not translating, you're just mimicking the sounds, the rhythm, everything. This is how you build muscle memory for your mouth and your mind to produce English automatically. Okay, so as we start to bring this all together, it's really important that we redefine what we're even aiming for here. What's the actual goal of learning to speak English? The goal is not perfection. I want you to burn this into your brain. The goal is freedom. The freedom to share your ideas, the freedom to connect with new people, and the freedom from all that stress and fear of making a mistake. And you've got to remember this. Even native speakers mess up. We pause, we forget words, we make grammar mistakes all the time. Fluency, like it says here, is just about being able to communicate clearly and comfortably. It's not about being fast or perfect. It's about feeling free when you speak. So, I'm going to leave you with this little challenge. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait until you feel like you know enough. Start right now. Right this second. What is the first simple English sentence that pops into your head? Just say it out loud. That's it. That's your first step. Thanks for tuning in.